All right, we're going to talk about 3 free agency moves so far that we hate. But before we get into that, make sure you like this video and subscribe to our channels to catch more videos just like this. And Kyle, let's hop right into it. What's your first free agency move that you hate?
Well, it's Antonio Gibson to the Patriots.
Yeah.
And that's coming from a guy who has been stashing him in Dynasty and praying that he would go on a place and get a chance to start with his high efficiency metrics. But instead, he goes to a team with a stud first stringer with the exact same skill set that, I mean, he might catch some passes so they can take something off of Stevenson's plate, but ultimately, a very underwhelming destination for Gibson to end up.
No, I agree. To go from this backup, kind of trapped as a backup here, not being utilized well, to being traded to be a backup, or he's probably not going to be utilized that much. Because let's face it, Ramondre Stevenson can kind of do everything, right? The guy can run hard, but he can also catch the ball, and he does catch the ball quite a bit. So yes, he'll be a good complement in that Patriots offense, but he's just going to be a backup to Ramondre. So it sucks.
It feels like to me a situation where if you're told you're not good enough long enough, you start to believe it. And so he settled for this spot rather than trying to find a chance to start or at least have a bigger role somewhere else because he's good enough to. I mean, he has had injury issues. I will say that.
Very
But
true.
those don't always last forever. CMC's had injury issues early in his career. Frank Gore had injury issues. It happens. It doesn't always last. I think he undersold himself.
Yeah. Now there's also the fact that New England needs playmakers, right? They need some athleticism. They need some playmakers. They need anything they can get. Who knows what their plans with Antonio Gibson are? I mean, there was so much hype around Gibson in Washington, and they never used them the way that their coach talk fooled us all into thinking they were going to, right? Antonio Gibson was supposed to be this dynamic pass catcher. I think they even said he was like Eckler or something like that. Like,
and they compared him to CMC.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, great, they're going to utilize this super athletic guy this way. And then they just never did. I guess that explains why Washington was such a horrible team. They just didn't know what they were doing. But, speaking of Washington running backs, let's move on to your next one.
Austin Ekeler. From the Chargers to the Commanders. Wah, wah.
Yeah. Anticlimactic for sure.
It is very anticlimactic because he's not going to be a 3-down back there. So his overall fantasy stats are going to drop. I do think he could still be a dynamic 3rd-down pass-catching back with Cliff Kingsbury. And his efficiency will probably go up with those touches. But overall, he's probably, we were talking about it a minute ago, somewhere in that running back 2 range. I think you'd probably have him more mid. I'd probably have him more mid to low running back 2 range area. But either way, he's an RB2. He's not a top 10 guy anymore.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's just not going to produce at that level. But what a great flex option still, I'm guessing, because where we were just talking about Antonio Gibson wasn't used in Washington. Well, that coaching regime is out and new coming in. Cliff Kingsbury, known for his air raid offense, which he's tired of hearing that too. He's already like, it's not an air raid. What the heck? So he doesn't care about that. But Austin Ekeler is still dynamic. He's had some ankle issues, which maybe being in that not a workhorse role will help with his health issues too. So he'll be more healthy more often. And as long as he's catching, 4 to 5 catches a game, which is a lot, I understand. Let's say 4 catches a game. That's super flex worthy.
Yep.
So I think he's still going to be there. Yeah, mid to low RB2 probably. Just don't love the situation. It's sad because I love me some Austin Ekeler. I think everyone in fantasy world loves Austin Ekeler, right? And to see him go to Washington is kind of really disappointing.
Also very anticlimactic. Yes.
Very, very. All right, let's go to your last disappointment.
All right. My last one is Mr. DeAndre Swift to the Bears. What the actual
Whoa.
free agency signing? What?
Don't say that. No. Oh, free agency signing. Got it.
What did
Okay.
you think I was going to say?
Never mind. Keep going.
Seriously, we got Herbert. We got Roschon, who I and probably a lot of people were fully expecting to kind of start taking over that backfield this year.
Absolutely.
Swift signs 3-year, $24 million. That's $8 million. That's starter money.
Yeah.
He's going to go there and start. So now trying to figure out how Herbert and Roschon Johnson fit into that behind him now is going to be very interesting because he's also a pass catching back. I don't know. Do they let Roschon still keep that kind of role? Does Herbert get bumped down to third now? Like, we don't know. We're going to have to wait and see what happens in training camp now between those guys. I will say I hate it for those other Bears backs that many people were stashing, hoping for that breakout from Roschon Johnson this year. It's brutal. It's a brutal signing.
It is. I mean, it shatters the fantasy narrative about Roschon Johnson. Like you said, it's starter money. It's a starter contract. It's really disappointing. On top of it, really confusing that backfield. On top of that, it opened up a spot in Philly for them to be able to sign Saquon Barkley, which as Cowboys fans is also really disappointing, but I'll cry about that later.
Sure.
That backfield, I know I had Roschon Johnson in Dynasty, waiting for him to get his opportunity. Thought it was going to be like one more year of waiting because of Herbert. I thought there was going to be more of a split, maybe even Roschon taking over midway season. And now that seems to be a no-go. So unless there's some weird scenario playing out here where the Bears are planning on a trade somewhere down the line of getting rid, because that's a lot of very capable running backs. And I know that a lot of these teams are going to having multiple capable running backs, right? Well, let's just look at the two backfields we just talked about. Like Gibson and Ekeler are still very capable running backs. They're going to be like splitting time. So it takes away from their fantasy value. But these teams, there's so many good running backs out there now that every team pretty much has two really good running backs. And now the Bears have 4 because I'm counting Justin Fields. And so what a mess there in Chicago. And now I'm trying to avoid it in redraft, and in Dynasty, I'm screwed having Roschon Johnson because nobody wants anything. I had a trade out pending with Roschon in it, and it got canceled pretty quick after that. So that's the effect that it's having in Dynasty right now.
I got Roschon Johnson in one of my dynasties as well. And now, honestly, one of my dynasties, I have Stevenson and Roschon Johnson in. So that's a fun one.
Boo those Bears. Boo.
Boo indeed.